Straight Talk Sales and Marketing Podcast, episode number 8. Welcome to Straight Talk Sales and Marketing with Janet Clark. Are you ready for more sales, more clients, and more cash flow? This podcast brings you direct, honest conversations with sales and marketing masters each week. Now here is your host, Sales and Marketing Master, Janet Clark.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk Sales and Marketing. I am your host, Janet Clark, and I am the founder and CEO of The Freedom Shift. And you are in the right place if you are an entrepreneur and you want to close more sales. So today I am going to speak to you directly about my personal experience in sales and marketing and some things that I have learned as I have grown my company, The Freedom Shift. One of the big lessons that I had to learn was how to sell my own services as opposed to selling somebody else's products or service. So here's the thing. I've been in sales my entire life. So you would think that I would be great at selling, right? Well, the reality is that all through my career, I've been selling other people's products and services. These solutions that I was selling were in the telecom field mostly. I actually had a stint selling some insurance products as well. But they really didn't have a huge impact on people's lives. And the reason I say that is because I was selling B2B. So the products and solutions and services that I was selling to businesses. And the person who was making the buying decision in those businesses was not going to be directly impacted by what I was selling. So they were making buying decisions for all kinds of different reasons why they would decide to do it, but mostly was just to look good in the corporation. It might have been somewhat budget related in trying to stay within some parameters of P&L that they might have been managing. But the fact of the matter was that I was selling phone systems, phone solutions, T1 lines, internet connections, voice over IP services. They were not life-changing decisions that people were making when they purchased those services from me. As opposed to when we are teachers, healers, consultants, coaches, we're working with individual people, and the results that those people are going to get will be life-changing for them. And also, those people are investing their own money in our services. So the outcome really matters. So let me just review what the situation was and what we're going to talk about today. So for those of you who have been in a professional or corporate career, you can probably really relate to this, where you were selling a solution, a product or a service that was not life-changing for the individual who was making the buying decision. Number two, the person who was buying that solution was not using their own money. They were spending the company's money. And number three, the product or solution that you were selling, or I was selling in my case, was created and delivered by someone other than me. So my role was salesperson. Now, as a coach, a teacher, a trainer, we are actually the solution that we're selling as well as the salesperson in a lot of cases. So what happens when we have to make this transition and we now have to sell ourselves? We really are playing a totally new game, and our prospects become they become more individualized, and the results start to matter a lot more. Also, rejection. The game of rejection changes. It's not really something you have to take personally if somebody rejects a product or service from a company other than you. But when somebody comes along and doesn't want what you have to offer, or says that they don't can't afford it, or they don't want to do it, or they're not going to do it, or they just disappear off the face of the earth when you're in the middle of a sales process, it's hard not to take that personally. So all of a sudden, the emotional connection to the selling becomes a lot stronger. And I don't know about you, but I find that hard. And I also became very emotionally connected to how the outcome of what I had to offer was going to impact that client. And I really started to second guess myself sometimes, because I know that not all of my clients are going to participate in the same way in my services, right? So my coaching, they're not going to react as well to training or different things that I'm doing. And what if they don't follow through with the service that they buy? Does that make me a failure? So there are all these different things that come into play when we're selling our own services as opposed to somebody else's. So I really want to think about how we can make this fun, right? And it's a process that I've gone through myself, and I actually thought it was a fun process, so I thought I would share it with you. And, you know, it starts with this. When you think about yourself, you know, the first thing that I think about is that, you know what, I'm slightly imperfect. And I actually am a little bit conflicted sometimes. And there are a few fallibilities that I carry around with me. And so I have to recognize that when I'm selling to a client, that is not what I'm selling to them. I have to sell the super me, and you have to sell the super you. So it's not really the everyday you who gets up some days or doesn't even feel like getting out of bed in the morning some days. You're selling the other side of you who really does have something amazing to offer. So we're going to try to spend a little time focusing on how to bring that out so that you can look at yourself as a commodity, sort of a product, and your service as a product. And you don't have to go down that slippery slope of wondering whether you can measure up to what you're selling to your client. You know, I read something in Forbes recently, and I'll read it to you, and I can quote it. It said, make a list of your best qualities. Then dress up the way super you would dress. And then talk the way the super you would talk. And be the super you and role play it. Practice being that super you. It's a part you are playing. It is a part of you. There really is a super you there. It's just one part of you, though. And make it a play. Okay? Think of it as you are playing a role. I love that because it can be applied to creating a sales and marketing formula for your services. And the fun is that you can now get to productize you. So let's try it. I actually came up with an exercise that we could do that will get you through this. And at the end of this podcast, you're actually going to have yourself productized. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you have a notebook and a pen. And I'm going to walk you through this. So take a deep breath. I'm going to take a deep breath. And the first thing that I want you to do is think about your ideal client. Envision that ideal client in your mind. And when I ask you to do this, I'm not talking about a theoretical or a hypothetical person, but to actually come up in your mind with a real live person. Somebody who you are either working with now or somebody who you know you could really help. And then when you think about that person and you bring them to mind, actually state their name and write it down on your paper. And you know, you can think to yourself, so I'm thinking about Fran, who is my ideal client. Okay? Now that you have figured out that person, I want you to imagine that person as I ask you to answer 5 questions. And if you want, I'll give you a minute to write the question down as we go along. But I want you to answer these questions quickly and kind of off the top of your head. So if you want, you can always go back and listen to this podcast again, and you can do this a little more in depth. But for the purposes of actually getting an end result here today, I'd love for you to just write down whatever comes off the top of your head. You probably know this person better than you even think you do. So here is the first question. What keeps Fran up at night? Or Bob or Bill or Joan or Jane or whoever you have as your ideal client. What keeps them up at night? Now just quickly write down what comes to mind, maybe 1 or 2 things even. And as we go along with this, I'm going to share, because I did this exercise for myself and I really got a lot out of it, I'm going to share with you what I came up with just to kind of pull this into context. So for me, what I came up with, what keeps Fran up at night is just having too much to do, wishing there was somebody to help, and wishing there was some kind of a step-by-step process that would be clear on exactly what should be done next, because everything is just jumbled up, right? So it's just too much to do. It's overwhelm. Okay, the question number 2. What gets in Fran's way on a daily basis? So think about your client and think about what do they face every day that feels big and like an obstacle for them. And for me, the answer for my ideal client is technology. Okay, the third question, what would save Fran a lot of time? Now let's face it, everybody wants to save time. Everybody wants more time to do fun things, to be with their family, to do their hobbies, whatever, have more time for exercise, whatever it is. Everybody wants more time. So what would save your ideal client a lot of time? And in my case, I put a team and a system. So probably what that really means is a team to implement a system. And then the fourth question, what does Fran most want at this point in life? Now, your ideal client may be at a different stage of life than somebody else's ideal client, but you know what this person really, really wants right now at this stage of their life. Okay? In my case, my ideal client wants financial and time freedom. They want to be able to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, and spend whatever it takes to do that. So financial freedom and time freedom. And the last question is, what would make Fran's life perfect? Now, for my ideal client, because a lot of the people who are on my list right now are in the stages of launching their business and just starting up, for me, my ideal client would be very happy with 6-figure business right now, $100K a year. So what would make Fran's life perfect? $100K business. And yours may be totally different. Your person, may be $1 million level. Maybe it has nothing to do with money. Maybe it's something totally health related. So, there's so many things that people would be looking for. Okay, so that gets you through looking at your client. Now I want to switch gears a little bit and have you look at yourself. And the 5 questions that I'm going to go through here are fill in the blank. And these should be pretty easy because we all easily know what we know about ourselves, right? So here we go. Let's fill in the blanks. Number 1, I am at my best when I am blank. What are you doing when you are at your best? Now for me, I came up with talking to people and coming up with new ideas. So that would be the thing that I just feel when I'm doing that, something good's going to come out of it. So think about that for yourself. Now, number 2 is I love to help people blank. What is it that you really know that you can help people with and you love to do it? With me, I came up with I love to help people solve a problem and make a plan. Or maybe make a plan to solve a problem or something like that. But solving problems. Number 3, in the past, I've had the most success blank. What were you doing that you've had the most success at? Now, it could be something, a sport. It could be something to do with work. It may have nothing to do with work. But for me, I came up with managing teams of people. That really the most thing that I did that was most successful was when I was managing teams of people. I could even say building and managing teams. And 4th, in my perfect world, I would make a living doing blank. So if you could pick any way that you would make a living, what would you be doing? And I came up with coaching people to make money because I really do like to help people figure out ways they can make money. And I like that strategy and coaching part of it. So that's fun for me. What about you? And now for the last one. I find great joy doing blank. And I'm going to put a little extra thing here, even if I don't get paid for it. So what is something that you find great joy doing, even if you don't make money doing it? And for me, it was helping people make a plan. So I really do enjoy being a part of that thought process that people go through. And that plan may not have to do with business. It could be anything. But I do like that planning. Okay, now to make this even more fun, we are going to go back to these 2 lists of things that we just figured out about ourselves, and we're going to add on, or we're going to combine the 2 lists. So this is how it goes. You're going to write down the thing that you came up with for yourself, and then you're going to add the words, which will help Fran, or whoever your ideal client is, do whatever. So here's how it would go for me. I am at my best when I am talking to people and coming up with ideas and strategies. So that's what I came up with for my first question that we had about me. And then I add the words, which will help Fran, or your ideal client, and then go back to what you wrote down for their number 1 thing. To sleep at night, because I will design a step-by-step process for them to make money, or for Fran to make money. You combine what you had for your question under number 1 with what they want in number 1. Okay, let's try that with number 2. So number 2 for me was, I love to help people solve a problem and make a plan, which will help Fran, or your ideal client, and in my case, deal with the technology issues that gets in the way every day. Okay, you've got yours. Now let's go to number 3. What you wrote down for that. In the past, I've had the most success, in my case, managing teams of people, which will save Fran a lot of time by providing which will provide a team to implement systems. All right, now we'll go to number 4. In my perfect world, I would make a living coaching people to make money, which will help Fran gain financial and time freedom. Again, going back to exactly what that person is looking for. Your ideal client, of course. Combine your number 4 with their number 4. And for the last one, I find great joy helping people make a plan which will help Fran get to the perfect world of making $100K a year. So how much fun was this? I love this exercise. So now you have the benefit statements and you're talking about them in your client's language. What's more important is that you're focused completely on the result and not your process, right? So you're talking about what the results are going to be. Because truthfully, the steps you take to get the results are just not important to Fran or Bob or Bill or whoever, right? They want to see results, and that's what you have to sell them. So now that you understand what a huge value and how productive you are for these people, you can productize your service. Remember, you're not selling that little you, the human person with issues, right? You're selling the super you that will give people the results. People aren't going to buy your process. They're not going to buy your coaching. They're not going to buy your consulting. They are buying solutions. So now I want you to write down on your paper these words. The product I sell called blank. Now in my case, I call my program Freedom 100K. Yours might be your name, but whatever it is you're selling, Joe Smith Consulting Services or sales training or, weight loss program or whatever it is, what is it? The product called blank offers, use that word afterward, offers, and then put a colon there. So the product I sell called the Freedom Shift offers. Now I'm going to put numbers 1 to 5, and I'm going to go back to what I came up with in the last original statements that I made, and I'm going to say that the thing that I am offering is a step-by-step roadmap to make money. That's number 1. Number 2, I am offering technology solutions done for you, based on what I came up with as number 2 in my statements. Number 3, I am offering a team and systems to save time. That was my number 3 statement. Number 4, I am offering coaching to gain financial and time freedom. And number 5, I am offering a plan to make 100K. So you see how you can take those statements that you created and you can then say what you're offering and what that is going to solve for your client. That is huge. So now you see why you're so great at what you do and why you are perfect to solve your clients' problems. And best of all, you are now able to describe your solution in such a compelling way that people are going to want to buy it from you. They will want to work with you because you are speaking in the language that they need to hear to solve their problem. So I hope this has been a fun exercise for you, and I hope that you will be able to go out there with a different way of looking at selling your own services. It's really been fun for me to be here with you today, and I have a surprise guest for you next week, so make sure you tune in here, same time, same place, and mark your calendar because it's going to be really fun and awesome. I'll be interviewing somebody really, really good. And in the meantime, I invite you to head on over to www.straighttalksalesandmarketing.com and make a comment if you would like to do that, or just download a free copy of my ebook, The Sell from the Heart. And as always, feel free to email me, janet@thefreedomshift.com, if you just want to chat or ask me a question or whatever. Maybe you would like to be interviewed here on my podcast. If you have something exciting that you'd like to talk about in the area of straight talk sales and marketing, then I'd love to hear from you. So thanks for tuning in this week and listening to our podcast, and I hope to see you back here next week. And until then, have fun selling your own services. See you later.
And thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the podcast. And now you should be ready to go out there and have fun selling your services. Now it's really all about what action are you going to take after listening to this episode of the podcast. Let us know your biggest takeaways by going to straighttalksalesandmarketing.com/008 and leaving a comment there on the show notes page. And also, if you enjoy these podcasts, please be sure to subscribe on iTunes so that way every single episode is delivered directly to you. And you never miss an episode because we are delivering brand new episodes every single Monday morning. So just go to straighttalksalesandmarketing.com/podcast and you can hit the little subscribe button there on iTunes. And lastly, now is your chance to enter our giveaway contest. We're in the final few weeks of this contest, so be sure to go to straighttalksalesandmarketing.com/podcast launch and follow the steps to sign up today. So now, what are you going to do? What action are you going to put in place here right now to take away this message from the podcast? It's now your turn to make your shift to financial freedom today.